Here is what happens to nearly everybody, and tell me honestly whether this is you. You do the shopping on Sunday. You spend about what you meant to spend, and you feel good walking out. Then Wednesday comes, and you are out of one thing, so you run up to the store for that one thing, and you come out $40 lighter carrying a bag of things nobody asked for. Friday, same. And at the end of the month, you cannot account for where any of it went, because the big shop was never the problem. It was the 4 little trips nobody counts. I have not made that Wednesday trip in 50 years. I go to the Dollar Tree one time, and I do not go back for 15 days. And 4 of us eat 3 times a day the whole while, and there is still food in the cupboard on the 15th night. My name is Doreen, and I have been feeding people on very little since 1974. I am going to give you the cart, every item, and what it turns into. But first, the one question I ask standing in that store, because it is the whole thing, and it is the only reason my cart comes out different from everybody else's at the same price in the same building. I am also going to tell you the 11 things you walk straight past, because that store makes almost all its money on people who fill the cart with the wrong half of it. And then the cooking side, which is honestly the bigger half, because you can carry the right cart home and still be out of food on day 6. I will tell you where this falls apart too, because it does. I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. Let me say the price thing once and let it go. It is $1.25 now for most of what is in there. I am going to keep saying $1 because that is what I have called it my whole life. What makes that store work is not the number. It is that everything is the same number, and that is still true. Now the question, and everything else comes out of it. In an ordinary grocery store, your eye does arithmetic without you asking it to. The numbers are all different, so some part of your mind is always comparing whether you notice or not. Walk into a dollar store and that stops. Everything is level, and the moment nothing is more expensive than anything else, the comparing part of your head goes quiet and lies down. That is not carelessness on your part. That is the design of the room. So I pick a package up, and I do not ask whether it is cheap, because everything in there is cheap and the question is useless. I ask how many times this will feed somebody. And once you start asking that, the store rearranges itself in front of you. There is a shelf in that building with a bag of chips on it and a bag of dried beans a little further along, and they cost the identical $1. The chips are gone in 20 minutes and nobody at the table is one bit less hungry. That bag of beans is 9 suppers. 9. Same shelf, same $1, and one is an hour of your evening and the other is most of a week. They put the chips at eye level and the beans down by your knees, and I do not believe that is an accident either. That is the hack. Buy nothing that feeds you once, and there is a matching rule for the stove that I will give you after the list. Start with the 4 things that hold the fortnight up. Pasta, 8 packages. Each is about 8 servings, so 64 servings of the base of a meal for $8. Whatever shapes are on the shelf, it makes no difference to a hungry person. It does not go bad. I have had a box sit past a year, and it cooked up no different. Rice. 4 bags. Rice takes on the flavor of whatever you set on top of it, which is exactly the property you want when what you have is not much. Rice under a stew, rice with an egg, rice with a spoon of whatever is in the pot, and it never announces itself as the cheap thing on the plate. Dried beans and lentils. 6 bags, and this is the most food you can carry out of that building for the money. A pound of beans is about 6 cups cooked. 8 or 9 servings of real protein for $1. Make 2 of the 6 lentils, because lentils need no soaking and are done in 25 minutes, and that matters more than you would think. On an evening when you have nothing left in you, canned goods, 12 mixed, tomatoes, corn, green beans, carrots, the plain end of the aisle. Somebody is already arguing with me about canned vegetables because I have had that argument at my own table. Here is what is true. Vegetables go in the can within hours of coming out of the field, so they hold their nutrition better than a fresh vegetable that rode a truck 6 days and sat in your drawer going soft for 4 more. You lose some vitamin C to the heat, and that is the honest cost. Nearly everything else stays. Rinse them, and half the salt goes down the drain, and a can of tomatoes is the start of a pasta sauce, a soup, a chili, or a rice dish. For $1, that is $30, and you have the bones of the 2 weeks in the cart. Now, the part almost everybody skips, and it decides whether you make it to day 15. Nobody says this out loud, so I will. People do not quit on this kind of eating over money or health. They quit from boredom. By the 4th day of the same taste, somebody at the table pushes the plate an inch away and says nothing about it, and you see it happen. 2 nights later, you are in a drive through spending money you did not have. That is not weakness. That is everybody. So the flavor items are not the treat at the end of the cart. They are the load-bearing wall. Onion and garlic. Many of those stores keep a cooler by the door now. If yours does, get them fresh. If not, minced garlic in a jar and dried onion in a shaker do the work. Every meal I make begins with one of them in hot oil, and that smell going through a house is what makes it feel like somebody is cooking dinner instead of getting by. 5 spices: garlic powder, chili powder, Italian seasoning, cumin, black pepper. Those little jars are a good buy against $3 and $4 at the grocery store, because it is the identical dried plant in a smaller jar. Those 5 make one pot of beans taste Mexican, the next taste Italian, and the third taste like a stew, and your family will believe you cooked 3 things when you cooked beans 3 times. That is not a trick played on them. That is cooking. Bouillon. If I could keep only one item off this list, it would be this one. A cube in the water you boil rice in changes the rice completely. It turns hot water and whatever is left in the cupboard into soup on a Thursday. When you have very little, bouillon is what makes the very little taste like food somebody made on purpose. Oil, 2 bottles, soy sauce and hot sauce, 1 each. And these save you on the day. Nobody can look at the same plate again. Flour and salt. Flour thickens a stew and makes something to go alongside the soup. Salt is not optional, because unsalted food is the quickest way to lose your family's patience. Another $12, and it is the best money in the trip. Protein, and here I have to be straight with you, because this is the weak spot. That store is not a good place to buy meat. The frozen case is small, and the value is poor, and I will not dress that up. What works? Eggs, if your store carries them, and a great many do now. 4 dozen. Eggs go on top of rice into a pot to stretch it, and onto a plate at 6 in the evening, which some of you were raised to think is not allowed. My mother put eggs on the table at supper time plenty of times, and none of us grew up feeling poor about it, because she never acted like it was a come down. Canned tuna, 6, peanut butter, 2 jars, real protein that does not want a refrigerator until opened, and the beans. Whether you meant it or not, those beans are the main protein of the 15 days, and they are entirely capable of it. Beans and rice eaten together make a complete protein, which every poor kitchen in the world has known for a few thousand years, and which we managed to forget in about 1 generation. Now the 11 things you walk past, because this is where that store earns its living. The chips. the cookies, the candy, the snack cakes, the crackers in the little bag, the fruit snacks, the pastries. Everyone is $1 for something gone in 10 minutes that leaves nobody full. Same dollar as the beans. The frozen dinners and pizzas, one serving apiece and the poorest value in the building. The little bottles of soda and juice. The paper towels, thin enough that you use 3 where one should have done, and the one that catches the most people. Do not buy a small bag of anything you could buy in a big bag somewhere else. The flour and sugar in there come in smaller bags than the grocery store sells and work out dearer by the pound. It feels like a bargain, and it is precisely the opposite of one. Now the cooking half, and this is the bigger half, you can carry that exact cart home and still be out of food on day 6. I have watched it happen to people who shopped perfectly. The rule in the aisle was buy nothing that feeds you once. The rule at the stove is cook nothing that feeds you once. People who are short on money cook a meal, eat all of it, and begin again the next evening from an empty refrigerator with nothing left in them. That is what wears a person down and what runs the food out on day 9. It is not the amount of food in the house. It is that every night starts from nothing. So when I cook the whole bag, not a portion, the whole bag. A pot of beans is not one supper. The first night, it is beans and rice with hot sauce. The next night, half of what is left gets mashed and fried in a little oil, and it has become something else entirely, and nobody looks at it and thinks leftovers. What is still left goes in a pot with a can of tomatoes and chili powder, and now it is chili. 1 bag of beans, 1 hour of my attention on a Sunday, 3 suppers, and nobody sat down to the same plate twice. Pasta the same. Cook far more than you need. Tonight it is pasta with a can of tomatoes and garlic and Italian seasoning, and it feeds everybody for about $2. Tomorrow the cold pasta takes a splash of oil and whatever canned vegetable is open, and it is lunch. What remains goes into bouillon water with a can of vegetables, and it is soup, and soup is the great forgiver because there is almost nothing that cannot go into a soup and come out fine. Rice the same. Make double. Cold rice into a hot pan with oil, a beaten egg, a canned vegetable, soy sauce over it, and that is a real supper for well under $1, and children eat it without arguing, which some evenings is the whole battle, and you know what I mean. Lentils, 1 bag, onion and garlic in oil, water, 2 bouillon cubes, a can of tomatoes, a spoon of cumin. 25 minutes and it makes an enormous pot, and that pot is supper twice and lunch twice, and it is better on the second day than the first. Do you see the shape of it? 6 or 7 pots across 2 weeks, and every pot has 3 faces. That is where the 15 days comes from, and that is why there is no Wednesday trip. There is nothing to run out for. And one more thing at the stove, worth 3 days on its own. When you cook the big pot, put some of it away before anybody eats. Not after, before. Because what gets eaten is whatever is sitting out on the stove. And what survives to become Thursday is whatever went into a container while your back was still turned. Now the honest part, the price will move. It was $1 for 35 years, and it is $1.25 now, and I would not swear to next year. Read the shelf. Not every one of those stores is the same store. Some carry eggs and produce, some carry nothing but shelf goods. Walk yours once and buy nothing just to see what you are working with. And this is a lean 2 weeks, and I will not pretend otherwise. It is enough food. It is real food, and nobody goes hungry on it. It is not variety, and it is not indulgence. This is a get to the end of the month plan, not a way to live forever. If this is your ordinary situation, situation rather than a tight patch, look up your local food bank and your state's SNAP office because that is exactly what they are there for. I have taken help before. Nearly everyone I know has at one time or another. And this one matters most. If you are feeding a growing child, or you are expecting, or somebody has diabetes or kidney trouble, or anything where the food is part of the medicine, do not build your fortnight off a video from a grandmother on the internet. Talk to a doctor or a dietitian and look into why, see if you might qualify. I am good with $1. I am not a physician, and that line is a real one. So here is what I want you to do. Before you go anywhere, cook what is already in your cupboard tonight. Most houses are holding 3 or 4 days of food nobody can see because it does not look like a meal yet. Look again, but ask how many times it feeds somebody instead of what it cost. Then walk your store once with no cart, just to see what yours carries. Then do the trip. 8 pasta, 4 rice, 6 beans, 12 cans, the eggs if they have them, 6 tuna, 2 peanut butter, 5 spices, bouillon, 2 oils, soy sauce, hot sauce, onion, garlic, flour, salt, nothing from the snack aisle, nothing out of the freezer case. Then Sunday, cook the entire bag of beans and put some away before anyone eats, and then do not go back to the store. That is the real test, and it is harder than the shopping. 15 days, no midweek trip, no running up for one thing that turns into $40. Come back and tell me the day you ran out and what state you are in. I read all of them. And if there is a supper, your family got through a hard stretch on that I did not name today, put it in the comments where the next person who needs it will find it. Half of you watching know something I do not, and I would like to know what it is. Next time, I am walking you through the 20 things I buy at an ordinary grocery store every week and nothing else, and what the register says at the end. 50 years ago, I was making that Wednesday trip like everybody else. What stopped it was not discipline, and it was not a budget. It was one question in an aisle. Ask it this week and see what your cart looks like.